shithousery, defined as something that is despicable, uncontrollable, or bad. Well, that's not exactly a Merriam-Webster or Oxford definition, but it's the closest we're going to get. Throughout the history of the beautiful game, we've seen plenty of occurrences that have been despicable, uncontrollable, and bad. And I can't help but notice that there's been a few repeat offenders. So I figured I'd comb through some of those nasty, unhinged, and outright stupid moments in football history and give some recognition to those who entertain us, and not just the footballing sense. We're starting off with somewhat of a cult hero in English football, and that's everyone's favorite Austrian, Ashley Barnes. Barnes is one of those players that you never truly know what you're going to get. Sometimes he's shutting at defenders, and sometimes he's giving them a snog. Barnes takes zero prisoners. He's the type of guy that will score in a derby, then push the goalkeeper to the ground on his way to celebrate. He was given the nickname Bashley by a Turf Moor faithful during his time at the Claret and Blue side of Lancashire, and in incredible fashion, he's rejoined Burnley the very day I'm recording this. Strap in, get your popcorn. Barnes is back in Burnley, baby. Staying on the theme of modern ballers, and now we're talking about both Bernd Leno and my mate Brian's least favourite player of all time, Neal Maupay. Maupay seemed to take the shithousery stage in rather rapid fashion. It all goes back to that fateful summer day of 2020, when Maupay, who was playing for Brighton at the time, injured Arsenal keeper Bernd Leno in a collision. Because Arsenal have a tendency to be slightly dramatic, Maupay all of a sudden found himself in a bit of heat, and he loved every second of it. Ever since that moment, it seemed like he's taken every single chance possible to anger the maximum amount of people. Whether it's trolling James Maddison by copying his celebration after bagging against Spurs, celebrating when he was loaned out from Everton on Twitter, saying he actively cheers against Everton, who are still his parent club, or just trolling AFTV. It seems like nobody is more fun than Neal Maupay. He's one of those people that has an incredibly divided opinion, but could not possibly care any less. Our next inductee is an all-timer, and it's nobody else but Roy Keane. In his playing days, he was an absolute nightmare to go up against. The type of player that will sweep the ball from under your feet and sweep your legs on his way past. He doesn't like praising players for good performances. He believes in simply doing their job. And when Villa celebrated staying up following the conclusion of the 2019-20 Premier League season, despite spending over £100 million in the summer transfer window that season, Roy was very much less than pleased. When he was the Ireland manager, he was asked if Robbie Keane was going to be available for selection when his wife gave birth the same day Ireland had a match. His response was simply, yet brilliantly, unless he's breastfeeding, he should be alright. And while we're on the topic of quotes, Kino has quite a few good ones, so I'll just leave them here. As hard as he may seem, Keane's heart's in the right place. He spends quite a bit of time and money supporting animal shelters, stood up for the rights of migrant workers and members of the LGBTQ community during the 2022 World Cup, and admitted to snapping off the wipers of people who wrongfully park in disabled spaces. We all need a Roy Keane in our lives. For our next induction, we're heading to perhaps the greatest shithousery nation on the planet, Scotland. And we're specifically focusing on former Celtic and Aberdeen player and current Ayr United manager Scott Brown. Whether it's his crunching tackles, getting sent off for celebrations, celebrating after being tackled, or celebrating the face of his opponents after a derby goal, Bruni always takes the chance to take the piss, and is very much worthy of a spot in the Shithousery Hall of Fame. The legend of Emiliano Martinez is one that dates back to someone we've already inducted, a little French wind-up by the name of Neal Maupay. When Maupay entered Leno back in June 2020, Martinez was the backup goalkeeper for Arsenal. Leno's injury gave him a chance to the first team, which saw him win FA Cup just weeks later. This attracted the attention of Aston Villa, and the rest is history. Dibu has since won 49 caps for Argentina and brought home 4 national trophies, one of them being the World Cup, which he showed heroic antics in the final. He also had a FIFA the Best Goalkeeper award to his name. However, that's just half the story, because as great as Dibu is, his ability as goalkeeper isn't where his greatness ends. Emmy loves to ruffle a few feathers here and there. He hits emotes up to saving penalties, which is quite often. He decided to make an obscene gesture with the World Cup Gold Glove trophy, which didn't go down too well with some, as he did it in front of a high-ranking Qatari official. So, Emmy did the mature thing, and he did the exact same thing with the Copa America trophy a few years later. Oh, and after winning the World Cup, he held a doll with a picture of Mbappe taped to it during the bus parade. Either you love him, or you're Graham Souness. Regardless of what you think of him, there's very few who belong in the Shithousery Hall of Fame more than Emiliano Martinez. Our next induction is someone who just doesn't give a shit. And by that I mean he doesn't not care about who he's offending, although that is part of it. He just doesn't care. On his day, Gareth Bale was the greatest winger in world football. So, when he wasn't playing much for Real Madrid, instead of pushing for a transfer, he just went golfing. And then when he was criticized for doing that, he celebrated the flag reading Wales Golf Madrid in that order while on international duty. And when he wasn't playing for Wales, he showed up to the game with a laptop, which he could have been playing Skyrim on for all we know. If he wasn't doing that in the stands, he was making binoculars and a medical tape, or just catching some Zeds. Casually being a part of perhaps the greatest front three of all time, bringing Wales to the semi-finals of Euro 2016, their first World Cup in 7 decades, and scoring the goal to win LAFC their first ever MLS Cup title. All while not giving a shit about football. It's something we have no choice but to respect, and something which certainly warrants a spot in the Shithousery Hall of Fame. We're starting to get into some really big names, as well as inducting the first ever manager in the form of Jose Mourinho. This man's existence is simply encoded with the fundamentals of shithousery. We're talking about the guy who parked the bus against Prime Barca, then ran laps around the stadium when it worked. He shushes a camera, he drinks champagne right from the bottle. He hits knee slides, he kicks over water bottles, and his press conferences speak for themselves.
I'm not feeling the pressure, no. You cannot put pressure on me. No chance. No chance. I read a lot of times during this week that I have to prove a lot in English football. Sir Alex is the only one European champion in this country. Nobody else. So I have to prove what?
When he was at Spurs, the board signed up for the Super League in April 2021. Mourinho refused to take his players out to train until Spurs pulled out of the Super League, which led him to being sacked. He cleaned out his office by that afternoon without a care in the world. When he went to Roma, he brought home their first trophy in decades, as well as creating one of the greatest Instagram accounts of all time. He joined Fenerbahce earlier this season, and has already started a beef with the Turkish FA after he posted clips exposing the fraudulent nature of the league when the league specifically told him not to do that. Everywhere Jose goes, he finds success. He also finds a way to piss people off, and he is going straight into the Shithousery Hall of Fame. We have another manager up next, this one in the form of longtime Atletico Madrid man Diego Simeone. The Argentine has made quite a few waves ever since taking over the red side of Madrid back in 2011, and many of his most iconic moments can be attributed to his reactions on the touchline, whether it's laughing at opposition players, lying face down on the ground, or doing things that make us wonder if Spanish football even has an HR department. Simeone's energy has captivated football fans for over a decade and a half. One of his most iconic moments came back in 2014. Atletico Madrid defeated local rivals Real Madrid in the Super Cup. However, things didn't exactly go to plan for Simeone. The manager didn't agree with the call a linesman made, and things started to get physical. He was sent off for this, which he couldn't have been too unhappy about, as he started applauding. Once he was sent off, he refused to leave the ground and watch the rest of the match from the stands. He was punished for all 3 offenses and banned a total of 8 matches. He's no stranger to getting sent off, rushing on the field to celebrate, and how can we figure at the time Man United fans pelted him with snowballs? Diego Simeone is every third official's worst nightmare, however it's a match made in heaven for the Shithousery Hall of Fame. Next one is a big name, as we have Luis Suarez. I'm not sure if he's actually a shithouse or just a generational crash out, but I decided to include him either way. State the obvious, Suarez likes to bite people. He claims they're all by accident, but I'm not sure how you can actually bite someone 3 times. 1, sure, we've all been there. 2, I mean, some days are better than others. But 3, now you're just taking the piss. There was also the time he turned into a volleyball player during the 2010 World Cup and swatted the ball off the line after Ghana were certain to score a last-minute winner. Ghana went on to miss the pen, and Suarez was visibly ecstatic over the sideline, free of any guilt from his actions. What was even more shameless was his post-match conference, in which he said, "The hand of God now belongs to me. Mine is the real hand of God. I made the best save of the tournament. Sometimes in training I play as a goalkeeper, so it was worth it. Not only did he crush an entire nation's World Cup dreams, in the first and only ever World Cup to take place on their home continent, and not only did he feel zero shame whatsoever, but he was proud of it. If that isn't worthy of a spot in the Shithousery Hall of Fame, I don't know what is. And even if it isn't, I'm putting him in anyway, because only 11 people have ever recovered from rabies, and I really don't feel like becoming the 12th. Next up, we have perhaps the shithouse, none other than Zlatan Ibrahimovic. This man's entire life is devoted to doing the unexpected and looking really cool while doing it. When Zlatan was a 17-year-old at Malmo, he was offered a trial at Arsenal by then-manager Arsene Wenger. Any 17-year-old would grab the opportunity with both hands, but Zlatan isn't like that. Instead, he replied with, "Zlatan doesn't do auditions." One time, when he was playing for PSG, a player from St. Etienne attempted to chirp him, and Zlatan literally said, "I'm sorry, who are you?" If a player tried to confront him, he would simply laugh in their face. Zlatan feared nobody. Fear feared Zlatan. An avid martial artist, it was never a rare sight to see Zlatan throwing an opponent to the ground, setting their kneecaps on the stratosphere, or simply headbutting them. In 2015, Sweden were facing off against international rivals Denmark in an international qualifier. There was quite a bit of chatter from Denmark fans prior to the game about how Zlatan was nearing the end of his career. When Sweden eventually emerged on top and advanced to Euro 2016 over Denmark, Zlatan said, "There was a thought this would send me into retirement. I sent their entire country into retirement." On the subject of good interviews, when he was playing for Man United, he was asked by an English reporter who the best striker in the Premier League was, and this happened.
For me, I like a striker that makes the difference. Lukaku is strong. He's more the physical player that scores a lot of goals. Aguero is good.
You didn't say yourself. I was expecting you to say me.
Lions, they don't compare themselves with humans.
And that isn't even his best interview, because when he was playing for Barcelona, a female reporter questioned his sexuality after a photo of him and Gerard Piqué emerged. Rightly annoyed by the nature of the question, Zlatan responded, "Come to my house and you'll see if I'm gay. Bring your sister too." Even in his retirement speech, he managed to get the last laugh. The speech followed AC Milan's final game of the season, a victory over Hellas Verona, which saw us side relegate to Serie B for the following season. A few salty Verona fans stuck around for the speech, and decided it would be a good idea to boo a man who was a black belt in Taekwondo. Without missing a beat, Zlatan simply replied, "Boo all you want, the highlight of your season is seeing me now." One of those players that everybody has a soft spot for, regardless of your allegiance, unless you're from Denmark, happen to be that one true Spanish journalist or support LAFC. No matter what people think of him, he will always be regarded highly in the halls of the Shithousery Hall of Fame. Following the Zlatan Ibrahimovic is no easy task by any means, but if anyone could, it would be Jamie Vardy. This man is simply one of one. When he was playing in England's non-leagues, he couldn't go to some away games because he had an ankle monitor. He'll have half a bottle of wine the night before a game, and 3 Red Bulls, a double espresso, and a ham and cheese omelette the day of. No wonder he's still bagging the Premier League at age 37. When Kasper Schmeichel took the chance to greet his countryman Pierre-Emile Højbjerg before a Premier League match between Southampton and Leicester, Vardy hit him with the in-betweeners reference. He'll pretend to dive as a laugh, and do the mannequin challenge as a goal celebration. After scoring the winner against Sheffield United, Vardy, who grew up supporting their rival Sheffield Wednesday, knew that obliterating the corner flag into 10 million pieces was quite frankly the only option. And this is my personal favourite Vardy anecdote. Apparently, he learns insults in the native languages of defenders that he knows he'll be going up against, a level of effort that must be applauded. We all have a mate like Jamie Vardy, and it's refreshing to see one of the lads doing it on the big stage. The Leicester legend has a Premier League, FA Cup, and Charity Shield title to his name, as well as 26 caps for England, a Premier League Golden Boot, and 240 professional goals and counting. And now, he can add a member of the Shithousery Hall of Fame, class of 2025, to his CV. We're starting getting some bigger names, and here we have one of the greatest personalities in football history. He might blur the lines of shithouse and crash out, but he's here, and he's Mario Balotelli. When Balotelli was playing at Inter, he was managed by fellow Hall of Fame inductee Jose Mourinho. Balotelli was booked in the first half, and Mourinho said that he spent 14 of the 15 minutes at halftime speaking to Balotelli about why he must avoid getting sent off. Balotelli listened, and managed to avoid a red card. For about 90 seconds, he was dismissed in the 46th minute, and Mourinho eventually dubbed the Italian striker as uncoachable, which is insane coming from Mourinho, for reasons we all now understand. Balotelli is just one of those guys who likes to have fun, regardless of what potentially negative repercussions might have. Whether it's an attempt at a backheel finish during preseason friendly, triggering the entire United team at once, or celebrating a goal by hopping on Insta Live, not knowing that the game was restarting without him in the background. Perhaps the most iconic Balotelli story comes on Bonfire Night in 2011, when he's playing for Man City. Manchester can get cold in November, so we get why Balotelli didn't want to go outside on that fateful night. However, he didn't want to miss out on the festivities of the evening, so he simply set up the fireworks in his house. This was all the newspapers talked about for the next few days, and Balotelli found himself in the spotlight by the time Manchester City had their next match, which happened to be a derby against United. City eventually won 6-1, with 2 of the goals coming from Super Mario. For one of them, he lifted up his shirt, revealing the message, "Why always me?" written underneath. And earlier last year, he decided to once again pursue his passion of indoor pyrotechnics, as he was photographed setting off a firework in the dressing room of his club at the time, Turkish side Adana Demirspor. He's one of those players that always catches headlines and seems to secretly love it. And one more headline he can catch is that he's been inducted to the Shithousery Hall of Fame. You laugh, but the Daily Mail has certainly had dumber headlines before. For the rest of the names on our list, I'll be real. I don't know if they belong in the Shithousery Hall of Fame or an aggression retention class. However, I don't know much about aggression retention, so the Shithousery Hall of Fame will have to do for now. And we're starting off with none other but Diego Costa. He'll send a defender to the ground if they do something he doesn't like, give Sergio Ramos a taste of his own medicine with a cheeky little kick to the head, He'll send defenders kneecaps in next Thursday. He mainly just likes abusing defenders. Say you all out, Diego, but he does not discriminate. He doesn't stop his onslaught on members of the opposing team, for there was that one time he decided to whack Xabi Alonso's leg when they were both on the bench for Spain during international duty. And who can forget the time he chased his Chelsea team to the box during training one day? He's even gotten physical with the steward before. Yeah, this guy's just a but he's a man that has an impact on the football and culture, as one time when I was 12, I punched a kid in the throat during recess football and defended myself by saying I saw Diego Costa do it. However, I live in America, and the teachers didn't know who that was. And even if they did, I still would have gotten in trouble, and quite deservedly so. Jack, if you're watching this, sorry man. Hope you and your windpipe are doing well these days. Influencing the youth thousands of miles away to violently lash out on their schoolmates during recess, there's very few things more worthy of a spot in the esteemed halls of the Shithousery Hall of Fame more than that. From someone who made a living assaulting centre-backs to someone of the opposite, as we have Pepe up next. The 41-year-old centre-back only just hung with the boots a couple of months ago, and oh as he had some moments throughout the years. Pepe conceded a penalty while playing for Real Madrid in 2009, and kinda lost his cool after it. The Portuguese defender proceeded to kick, knee, and slap multiple Getafe players, which resulted in a red card, a 10-match ban, and Pepe considering not returning to the game of football, a feeling as if he wasn't in the right frame of mind, which shows that he has a lot more empathy than some of his fellow inductees. Pepe was a master of kicks, headbutts, and quite frankly, anything that would be your biggest nightmare as a striker. Pepe finished his career with 19 red cards and 185 yellow cards across 878 games, which honestly isn't as many as I was expecting. However, he wasn't all that hard, as this video of him dancing during a Porto kit release a few years ago. Only one man can follow Pepe, and that's none other than Sergio Ramos. 28 red cards and over 244 yellow ones across a 996 game career is something that will likely never be topped. And Ramos certainly had his fair share of outright mental moments of his career. When Ramos injured Mo Salah in 2018, not only seeing him sidelined for the UCL final, but also having Salah restricted to a spectator role for most of Egypt's World Cup campaign, fans didn't take it all too well. An Egyptian lawyer attempted suing the defender for €1 billion, and a petition to get Ramos banned from football reached over 500,000 signatures, with one of them most certainly coming from 12-year-old me. Ramos just doesn't care. He's the same man who dove to ensure Juan Cuadrado was sent off in the UCL final, as well as the same man who celebrated an own goal during the 2010 World Cup. He'll dash a quick elbow to the face, and if you're wearing a Barcelona shirt, run for the hills. El Clasico brought out the demons in this man. And there we have it, the Shithousery Hall of Fame, Class of 2025. Whether it's offending high-ranking government officials, setting off fireworks in your own home, or just kicking people really hard, there's multiple different ways to immortalize your names in football and tomfoolery. Comments on the names I missed, and I might just do a part 2.